Hey friends, so as you know in a recent video I was sharing about how I'm working on this whole tongue level thing, and I know that I haven't discovered or invented tongue level. And I feel sort of silly making these videos sometimes because this is such a common topic, like you see it everywhere. But I think for me it just never really clicked. I know I used it some and some amount, and I know that it happens sort of like sympathetically, but every time in the past, when I would try to make the tongue like my primary focus to slur or change pitch, uh, it just didn't seem to be like the big driver. And if I would try to use a lot of tongue, my embouchure would get all messed up, and it just didn't seem super helpful. But ever since the kind of the realization, after kind of the discovery went on, where that the top of the tongue should be around the top of the bottom teeth, so that as the airstream comes over the tongue, it's being channeled straight into the lips and an aperture. All of a sudden, then this tongue level stuff has started to actually make a real impact on how I play, and I found that it's made me a lot more consistent. It's given me a lot more endurance, and it's been very helpful. So anyway, I kind of say all that to say to share another thought that I've been kind of working on and thinking about that with today. And then I realized, and one of the things that made me struggle a little bit with it before is I think sometimes maybe I can be a little dogmatic about things, and probably a lot of us can be. Um, but what I'm noticing when I'm playing now is it's not that the tongue is the only thing, only thing that's moving. And this may change because remember, I'm on a discovery process here, and I'm just sharing my discovery with you. And so at some point, I may figure out a better way to do this. But I'm finding that as that tongue is rising and lowering, a couple things are happening. The position of my lips is changing slightly, and my jaw sometimes in large changes will change just slightly. It might just open or close just a touch. But it's not neither of those are things that I'm necessarily trying to control, but I'm allowing them to happen if through the tongue and using the feel and sound as my guide, if that makes that happen. Does that make sense? So I'm not trying to think like, okay, don't let my jaw close. Keep it here a whole time. I'm not trying to be that rigid, which sometimes I've been in the past. Or I'm not thinking to blow harder necessarily. I'm kind of letting the volume be my guide for how hard I blow. And I'm letting my lip position is being adjusted. But I'm really focusing on like the tongue kind of taking that lead action, and I'm finding that to be kind of useful. And I don't know that any of this will translate into video because I think the movements are so small. I don't think that you can see them. So all that, like, I can feel just like as I go up, I'm feeling just tiny amounts of like things firming up here, the jaw closing just a touch, and I'm trying to hear each pitch and think about where my tongue is going to be for that pitch, like that. So trying to like really think of where that slot is for that pitch. Also, Adam Rappa talks about this a lot, and I've taken a lesson with Adam before years ago, and back then I didn't get it, but this is definitely the key to kind of how he does a lot of the Adam Rappa stuff, like all of the extreme range and the facility that he has, and be able to play high notes loud and high or whatever. So he's talked about this. If you're finding this useful, you should go on a YouTube rabbit hole dive and look into this. But the other thing that I noticed that Adam talks about is the level of the tongue, the rise of the tongue, your tongue level. So how much tongue level is completely dependent on also how hard you are exhaling the air into your horn. So if you're doing it like what I'm doing right now, where I'm playing kind of quiet, mezzo, piano, mezzo forte, somewhere right around there, then the tongue level's moving quite a bit because there's not a whole lot of air going through. But if you start to add gas to it, then and you start to like add more air, then that tongue level will start to drop by necessity to because there's more air kind of like rushing through. So if you're playing a high note, if you play it loud, so let's say if you're crescendo on a high note, and I don't know, let's just say you're playing a high C and you want to crescendo on it, and you're going to go from piano or mezzo piano down to higher or louder. Then as your crescendo, as it gets louder, there we go. We'll start to see that. As you get louder, that tongue level is going to come down, but your air supply then goes up. And Adam does a cool demo where he'll drop the tongue and not change the air supply, and the high C just kind of falls off. I don't know if I can do that. Let me see if I can do it. Yeah. As I drop the tongue, you can hear that C fall. So that's kind of what happens as I drop the tongue. But if I drop the tongue and simultaneously add more volume of air, and that air I'm squeezing from way down here, you can kind of I kind of almost like raise up a little bit as I squeeze. Then that tongue is now starting to come down. So that tongue position is relative to the volume you're playing is I think the key takeaway here. But I think the value comes in learning where these notes sit at a quieter volume and then intentionally crescendoing on those. And think of how many exercises you've played through Schlossberg or Claude Gordon or whatever, where you're getting up to a note and then crescendoing on it. Not just crescendo for crescendo's sake, but for crescendo and think about what's going on with the tongue. Or if you're decrescendoing on a note, which we do a lot too, and like Reinhardt exercises like that, think about it as you're decrescendo that the tongue is rising up in your mouth to keep that steady stream of air pressure so that pitch stays the same. Anyway, it's what I'm working on. Let me know what you think in the comments.